Hey everyone, and welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Melissa Ash. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys are all having a fantastic afternoon. We wanted to share with you guys those remarks that President Trump made earlier at day one of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. He was talking about the call to action on the world drug problem, and Joe wanted me to apologize to you guys that we were not able to share this stream earlier. So we're going to share it with you right now, and it is from the White House. And after that, we'll be looking through some articles, and I want to hear your feedback on it as well. So you are about to hear from Nikki Haley and President Trump. Enjoy.
Good morning, and thank you, and welcome to the first major event of High Level Week 2018. We're very excited to see all of you this morning. The President takes a personal interest in the fight against drugs. The U.S., like many of your countries, has seen too many lives lost and families destroyed due to the illegal movement and abuse of drugs. So we thank you very much for signing the compact and for being here. What brings us together today is something that has touched every American. Everyone knows someone who has suffered or died from abusing illegal drugs. And drugs are not only an American problem. The drug problem is global. It is a demand side issue and a supply side issue. Drugs are a corruption issue, a law and order issue, a civil society issue. All of these issues are part of the drug problem, and they don't stop at geographical borders. It will take every country at the United Nations to address the drug problem. The United States is confronting a serious opioid crisis that is fueled by the rapid increase in the illicit supply of synthetic drugs like fentanyl. We're not alone. Countries around the world are seeing similar trends of increased addiction and significant loss of life due to deadly drugs like those. We expect this upward trend to continue. So we're here today to talk about solutions. We've seen firsthand how complex the global drug supply chain is. We've seen what's working and what isn't to stop production, trafficking, and use. We've been to coca fields and sat down with leaders in Colombia, Guatemala, and Honduras. These countries are committed to doing good work to combat this crisis, work that benefits all of us. Our partnerships are making a difference. The President wants to get even more countries involved to pursue action on a global scale. The President will say more about this in a minute, but the global call of action began as a way to build awareness among world leaders about the drug problem. The next step is to reaffirm the commitment of UN member states to key UN conventions and institutions devoted to this issue. And we need to pay more attention to emerging challenges, specifically those posed by synthetic drugs. Finally, we want every UN member state to commit to action. The global call to action asks every country to pledge to develop action plans for addressing drug supply and demand, treatment options, and international cooperation. The response we've received so far has been nothing short of outstanding. Mr. President, we're proud to join our 31 co-hosts, including Colombia, the United Kingdom, Afghanistan, Kenya, and Jordan, who helped gather the countries assembled here today. And we are honored to be among 130 member states who are here and have signed on to the global call to action. Your commitment is an inspiration. We hope it leads more nations to join us. But none of us would be here today without the leadership of the man it is now my honor to introduce. As President of the United States, Donald Trump has taken on the challenge and felt the weight of leading a nation in pain and grief over the abuse of illegal drugs. Now he has taken this leadership worldwide. He is relentlessly committed to building a global coalition to fight the global problem of drug abuse. We are grateful for his leadership in this event, Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce my boss, President Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, Nikki. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here this morning. It is a great honor to address you on an issue that affects every nation across the globe, the world drug problem, and a big problem it is. The scourge of drug addiction continues to claim too many lives in the United States and in nations around the world. Today, we commit to fighting the drug epidemic together. I want to express my deep gratitude to Ambassador Haley for her outstanding leadership in Counter-Narcotics at the United Nations, along with the dedicated work of our great Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, who's done an absolutely fantastic job, and Ambassador John Bolton. Thank you very much. We also thank the Secretary General for joining us as our special guest, he's become a great friend, and he's doing a wonderful job at a very, very complex situation, but a beautiful situation. And I've always said the United Nations has tremendous potential, and that potential is being met. Slowly but surely, it's being met. We are likewise grateful to our 31 co-host countries. Each of you is taking critical steps to combat the global drug problem. As the 2018 World Drug Report highlights, cocaine and opium production have hit record highs, incredibly, and global deaths caused by drug use has increased by 60% from the year 2000 to 2015. So in 15 years, it's gone up 60%, which is absolutely terrible. As we know, illicit drugs are linked to organized crime, illegal financial flows, corruption, and terrorism. It's vital for public health and national security that we fight drug addiction and stop all forms of trafficking and smuggling that provide the financial lifeblood for vicious transnational cartels. In the United States, we're taking aggressive action, securing our borders, supporting law enforcement, devoting record funding to the opioid crisis, and promoting treatment and recovery. Many nations here today are also taking bold action. Newly elected President Duque, Colombia, campaigned on an anti-drug platform and won a very, very impressive victory. Congratulations. We look forward to partnering with his new administration to eradicate cocoa production in his country. All of us must work together to dismantle drug production and defeat drug addiction. For this reason, last month, the United States announced a global call to action on the world drug problem. The call is simple: reduce drug demand, cut off the supply of illicit drugs, expand treatment, and strengthen international cooperation. If we take these steps together, we can save the lives of countless people in all corners of the world. And when I say countless, I'm talking about millions and millions of people. I'm thrilled that every country in the room today has agreed to answer our call, and I want to thank each and every one of you for your commitment to this important initiative. The United States looks forward to working with you to strengthen our communities, protect our families, and deliver a drug-free future for all of our children. Thank you very much, and thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are very grateful that the Secretary General is with us today to kick off High Level Week and to show his commitment to the world campaign against the abuse and movement of illicit drugs. We are also grateful for the UN organizations that are hard at work on this issue, particularly the Commission on Narcotic Drugs and the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. Their leadership on international drug policy is invaluable. The United States believes that the international community should approach the fight against illegal drugs as an important component of promoting international peace and security. Our next speaker was with us last year on leading the reform effort of the UN. We deeply appreciate his leadership and his presence here today. Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
Mr. President, let me begin by thanking you. You are focusing a global spotlight on the world drug problem, and we have never needed it more. As you have so eloquently said about the drug challenge, and I quote, "Failure is not an option, and addiction is not our future." That sets out today's discussion perfectly. And for me, like so many of you, this is more than just a policy issue. It is personal. Someone very close to me passed away at an unbearably young age. My sister is a psychiatrist, and she spent many years working at a drug treatment center in Lisbon. I saw the heavy toll it took on her day after day as she treated those suffering so badly. I must tell you, I have an enormous admiration for my sister. I think I have done several tough jobs in my life, nothing compared, which I've seen her doing. And the reality is that drugs and addiction are not abstract issues. All of us have stories. All of us should know that this can knock on our door at any moment. It's our duty to act, and act now. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the situation is alarming. Global production of opium and manufacture of cocaine, as the President just said, has never been higher. In recent years, some 31 million people around the world require treatment because of their drug use. And some 450,000 people die every year from overdoses or drug-related health issues. Non-medical use of tramadol in parts of Africa and the Middle East is threatening communities that are already fragile. And here in the United States, the opioid crisis is utterly heartbreaking, destroying lives and impacting communities. Despite the urgency of the problem, for every 6 people around the world we need treatment for drug use, just 1 receives it. And that figure is even lower for women drug users. To tackle this complex issue, we need strong action in 2 areas. First, by cracking down on trafficking and those who profit from human misery. That means denying safe haven to drug traffickers and better cross-border cooperation to pursue kingpins and dismantle networks. It moves improved intelligence sharing and analysis across the entire drug supply chain. And it means targeting the links between drugs, corruption, arms, human trafficking, and terrorist networks. The second action area is making sure that those who need treatment get it. Consumers are first and foremost patients and victims. These 2 principles guided the drug policy launched by my government when I was Prime Minister of Portugal 2 decades ago. In the 90s, my country was reeling. We had some of Europe's highest death rates for drug abuse and the highest rate of HIV amongst injection drug users. First, we took on drug traffickers. I made sure law enforcement officers got the information and the equipment they needed. For example, they told me that boats could not keep up with the drug smugglers, so we immediately invested in a new generation of armed speedboats. As you can imagine, Portugal in the extreme west of Europe, drugs come essentially by sea. And I was so excited about this project that I myself, as Prime Minister, participate in the test runs of those speedboats at sea. At the same time, the government assumed its responsibilities for prevention and treatment, rooted in the conviction that drug addicts are victims who need treatment rather than punishment. And the policy worked. There was an increase in the quantity of drugs seized and in the efficiency of police and customs operations. Drug consumption went down significantly, particularly among young people. The number of problematic drug users went down by 50%. And there was a significant reduction in the infectious diseases associated with drug use and in the number of people taking overdoses. Today, Portugal has one of Europe's lowest death rates from drug use. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, national priorities may differ, but the global community shares a common goal to protect people's security, health, and well-being. And the United Nations system, and I personally, stand ready to support governments in meeting the challenge of the world drug problem. The United Nations stands behind the implementation of the UN Drug Control Conventions and the outcome document of UN General Assembly Special Session in 2016. Mr. President, once again, thank you very much for your leadership in bringing this life and death issue front and center. Failure is indeed not an option. Together we will succeed. We will never give up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General, and thank you, Mr. President. We cannot be more proud of today's exceptional turnout and this amazing show of support for the global call of action. The United States, together with all of you, will continue to work hard to end the suffering and the loss of life that comes from the abuse of illegal drugs. We hope to hear from each of you about the progress you make in the weeks and months ahead. And thank you for showing what a united United Nations can do, even at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. Have a great and successful week. God bless you all.
Thank you very much.
So that was the first video that I wanted to show you guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. There will be a few more as well. And it was really great, President Trump talking about how he wants the world to fight this drug epidemic together. So really looking forward to seeing some unity there. And I am pulling up right now the next clip for you guys. We were unable to stream them earlier, and we apologize for that, but thankfully we can show you some of them right now. So I want to go in order, just kind of how the day went. So now we are going to take a look at Ambassador Nikki Haley and National Security Advisor John Bolton holding a press conference.
It's an honor to be here in New York for the 73rd United Nations General Assembly, my first as Secretary of State, kind of the Super Bowl of diplomacy. Americans can be proud of our entire team is executing on the field today. I'm thrilled to be here with my friends Nikki and John as well. Americans expect the United States to assert bold leadership on the world stage that reflects our values, and under President Trump, we are certainly leading from the front. This was clear from just the first meeting this morning, in which we issued a call for global action for the world drug problem. The scourge of drug trafficking, narcotics production, and substance abuse is intensifying on a global scale. Within the United States, President Trump is leading a massive and effective counterattack against it. It's now time for every country to follow our lead. Later today, the President will hold bilateral meetings with President Moon of South Korea, President al-Sisi of Egypt, and President Macron of France. Whether it's security issues, economic issues, human rights, or anything else, the President is asking for countries to exert their sovereignty to solve challenges and listening to what America can do to help. This emphasis on sovereignty was, of course, the theme of President Trump's speech to the General Assembly last year. That theme will endure in his speech tomorrow, along with a recap of how his call for every nation to do its part has paid dividends for the United States and the world over this past year. For example, President Trump's leadership, combined with efforts of countries to enforce the pressure campaign, has de-escalated tensions with North Korea and brought us closer to our final goal, the final fully verified denuclearization of the DPRK, as agreed to by Chairman Kim Jong-un. Last week's summit between President Moon and Chairman Kim yielded another positive step forward, but the President remains resolute. Now is not the time to ease pressure. And as you've heard too, President Trump will address the threat of non-proliferation at the Security Council on Wednesday and the need for responsible nations to stop the spread of weapons and technologies. Among the topics that meeting will cover are North Korea, Syria, and Iran. You can bet the President will have well-deserved strong words for the Iranian regime, which is among the worst violators of UN Security Council resolutions, if not the absolute worst in the world. He'll call on every country to join our pressure campaign in order to thwart Iran's global torrent of destructive activity. Whether it's Venezuela, South Sudan, Syria, Burma, China, the estimated 2.5 million 25 million victims of modern slavery around the world can also count on America's support. Today is shaping up as a great first day. Lots more work to come this week. President Trump and our entire diplomatic corps look forward to the days ahead with our foreign counterparts as we work on achieving shared victories for all. Ambassador Haley.
Good morning. Happy UNGA. We got a great start today with the President's event on counter-narcotics. Really, to understand this event is to understand the fact that it wasn't just a bunch of people getting into a room. Every country that attended had to sign a global call to action, which basically said that they were going to implement something within their own countries that dealt with how they were going to deal with the supply and demand of drugs, the international cooperation they were going to do with other countries to stop illicit drugs, and then also treatment that can be done within their own countries. And so the idea that the president was able to get 130 countries to sign on means that we are now having a global drug conversation that needed to be had for a long time. As we go through UNGA, you are seeing over 140 heads of delegations that are here in at the United Nations. We certainly are looking forward to the president's speech tomorrow. As you can tell, last year we started UNGA, and it was trying to figure out what the U.S. presence was going to be. This year, we're here with a bang. Not only is the president doing his speech, he's going to be doing a Security Council meeting. Secretary Pompeo is also doing a Security Council meeting. The vice president's doing an event on Venezuela. And so it's all hands on deck by the United States. He will be meeting with the Secretary General. It's been an interesting time knowing that since the Secretary General's meeting last year, we have pulled out of the Paris Accord. We've pulled out of the Global Compact. We have pulled out of the Iran deal. And all of that is to say that the United States is determined to obviously be involved in multilateral organizations where we see it, but not in the way that they're mandated on what the United States does or that infringes on the American people. So with that, he will be hosting the reception, obviously, tonight with the heads of delegations. And then tomorrow night, he and the vice president and the secretary have agreed to host our Security Council members as well as their foreign ministers. And you know, with everything we've been able to get accomplished, whether it's the arms embargo with South Sudan, whether it's the idea that we were able to get 3 sanctions packages passed in North Korea, that we've got massive reform efforts that were done this past year, and peacekeeping mandates completely rolled over. We would not be able to do that without the Security Council. And so that meeting is going to be very important. But we look forward to a great week. Everyone is excited. The United States is always very happy to host this. New Yorkers may not be, but we're going to make it a great UNGA. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks. I'm just delighted to be here. Everybody have a copy? I've got mine. A little worn, but I've still got it. I just wanted to take a second and talk about one of the themes in the president's remarks tomorrow, and I have been around long enough to know that I'm not going to step on any of his lines, but he is going to talk and elaborate on his views on sovereignty. And I just wanted to explain that this is why this is so important for Americans, because many people consider sovereignty a kind of abstract concept. It derives obviously from the word sovereign, meaning the monarch. But it's one of the reasons I think America is exceptional, and that is we understand sovereignty not to be vested in the head of state. We understand it, as the framers said in the Constitution itself, we the people are sovereign in America. So that infringements on our sovereignty are not infringements on abstractions or infringements on the government. They're an infringement on the people themselves. We express our sovereignty through the Constitution, through our political process. It's why that's so important. And it's why we believe, and of course I'm speaking in secular terms here, that the Constitution is the highest authority that we recognize. So in a number of different ways, the president's going to address this issue. I think it's a continuing theme of his. As Secretary Pompeo said, it was a theme in his last address to the General Assembly, will be this year, and in a variety of other contexts that you'll see. Thank you.
With that, we'll open it up to questions. Steve Holland.
Mr. Secretary, will you raise with the Russians this, what you're calling an escalation of sending these S-300 missiles to Syria?
So there are many topics that we'll talk about with the Russians. I'm very confident that their latest decision to move the S-300 will be amongst them. Ambassador Bolton's had the most recent conversation when he met with his counterpart now 3 weeks ago, perhaps 4 weeks ago. As I said yesterday, we're trying to find every place we can where there's common ground where we can work with the Russians. We're finding lots of places where they're working against American interests, and we will hold them accountable for so doing.
And will you meet with Lavrov while you're here?
Yes, I'm sure Sergey and I'll have our time together.
Matt Lee from the AP.
Oh, I don't really have anything to ask. I'm in the middle of writing something. But I will, I guess. Ambassador Bolton, when you talk about sovereignty and your threat to prosecute the International Criminal Court, do you expect the president will repeat that that threat, and exactly what is the legal basis for saying that you will prosecute ICC prosecutors or judges?
Well, as I said a moment ago, I'm not going to say anything specific about what he's going to comment on, and the authorities that I referred to in my speech to the Federalist Society are largely drawn from the American Service Members Protection Act of 2002.
John Roberts, Fox News.
Two questions. First one's not exactly in your purview, but as you spent the morning with the president, do you have any idea what's currently going on with the Deputy Attorney General?
We don't have any comment. You'll have to talk to the White House about that.
Then let me ask my second question. North Korea. You're having a lot of talks with North Korea. You're not seeing what you need to in terms of denuclearization. How long do you leave the door open before you decide this isn't working?
Yeah, John, look, you have to remember this is a process that will move forward. To set a date certain would be foolish. But make no mistake about it, the conversations that we're having are important. They're putting the opportunity to complete the denuclearization in place, and we will continue at every level to have those conversations. Some of them you will all be aware of, some of them you won't know are taking place. There's lots going on so that we can get to the place where, in this place where this week, right? These are the UN Security Council resolutions that demanded that North Korea give up its nuclear weapons program and, even more broadly, its nuclear capabilities. Those aren't United States demands, they are the United Nations demands, and we're working to assist in implementing them and to help Chairman Kim get to the right place to honor the promise that he made to President Trump in Singapore.
Are you optimistic that he will come through on this?
Yes.
Aaron Barnett, CBS.
Secretary Pompeo, just to follow up on that point, President Trump said earlier today the second meeting will take place quite soon. So my specific question to you is, what does North Korea need to do before securing that meeting, or has it already achieved that privilege?
I'm not going to get into details about it, but the president said this morning they'll meet quite soon. I'm confident that will happen. I expect I'll be traveling to Pyongyang before too long as well to make the final preparations for the second meeting between the two leaders.
Would that be before the end of the year? What is soon?
Yes, Lord willing, I'll be traveling before the end of the year.
Francesca Pearson.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'll start with you, Secretary Pompeo. North Korea says that it's looking for reciprocal actions from the United States in order to enter into a nuclear deal. What at this point would the United States be willing to give up to North Korea, since you guys have said that sanctions are not on the table? And then I have a second question on a second topic, but you might want to answer that.
So I have said repeatedly, and I shall remain steadfast, we're not going to talk about the state of the negotiations. It would be inappropriate for us to do that, or our North Korean counterparts to talk about particular deal points, things we're working on. But the fundamental principles remain the same. We expect the full, complete, verified denuclearization of North Korea, and until such time as that occurs, the economic sanctions, the sanctions that have been put in place by the United Nations Security Council, will remain in place. That's the core proposition that the president agreed to in Singapore, and it's the one we're going to continue to honor through the whole process.
Okay, then the second topic. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is among the U.S. allies who's not getting a private sit-down with the president this week, it would seem. So what does that say about the relationship between the United States and Canada right now? And what does it say about the possibility of securing a trade deal with Canada?
The president's schedule is very compressed this year in New York, and so there were a lot of requests and a lot of desires by the president to have bilaterals that simply couldn't be accommodated. He speaks with Prime Minister Trudeau by phone all the time, and it's always possible here in New York that they would have time for a pull-aside, as we call it, but there is full and open, complete communication between Prime Minister Trudeau and President Trump. That I can assure you.
Lindsay.
Emerald Robinson, One American News.
Thank you, Lindsay. This is for either Ambassador Haley or Secretary Pompeo. In an update on Pastor Brunson, there's rumors that he could be released next month. Any comment on that? Is that true? And are there conversations going on this week in regards to him and Turkish sanctions?
Yes, he could be released this month. He should have been released last month, and he should be released today, in fact. We've talked to the Turks. They know the expectation. Pastor Brunson and the other U.S. persons that are being held by Turkey all need to be released by Turkey, and they need to be done. That needs to be done immediately. And I'm sure there'll be some conversations this week in furtherance of that, but make no mistake, there'll be nothing that we share with them here that we haven't shared with them already about President Trump's demands that these innocent people, these people who have truly done nothing wrong, not be detained wrongfully in Turkey.
Lindsay.
Can we move to the back of there in the gentleman?
Thank you very much, Secretary Pompeo. My name is Majid Dili. I'm from Rudal Media Network. I have a question for Ambassador Bolton or Secretary Pompeo to answer, which is about Iraq. Ambassador Haley last week elaborated very well at the Security Council of how Iran is practically taking over Iraq and influencing what's going on there. Iran now is appointing the Speaker of the Parliament. They're planning to appoint the Prime Minister of Iraq. They're taking over the country. What does the U.S. is planning to do in order to counter Iranian influence? Do you have specific plans? So,
Thank you. You're speaking about the Iraqi government formation process. Yes, I'm sorry. I want to make sure I had the question right. This administration took over at a time when Qasem Soleimani and the Ayatollah were running rampant through 5 capitals in the Middle East. And we have engaged in significant activity that has begun to counter the Iranian threat. Today, they remain the world's largest state sponsor of terror. It is our fervent effort to make sure that that not remain the case. We've put a number of restrictions in place. We will reimpose another set of sanctions come this November. Our actions in and around the Middle East have made clear we will not continue to accept Iran's bad behavior. In Iraq, we have been working to achieve a government that is an Iraqi national government. And we're hoping that the leaders, the people of Iraq have spoken, they had their chance to vote, and now they're in the process of forming that government. And we are working diligently to make sure that the Iraqi people, the voice that they gave during their election, is who ends up in leadership there.
A follow-on, Kim Dozier from the Daily Beast. Rudy Giuliani over the weekend called for regime change in Iran. Does that follow with the Trump administration's desires, policy?
As I've said repeatedly, regime change in Iran is not the administration's policy. As Mike Pompeo just said, we've imposed very stringent sanctions on Iran. More are coming. And what we expect from Iran is massive changes in their behavior. And until that happens, we will continue to exert what the president has called maximum pressure. That's what we intend to do.
Yes, Ambassador Haley, you're the lone person here that has been with the administration since the beginning. In the story about Rod Rosenstein on Friday, it was mentioned that he had been involved in circulating discussions about invoking the 25th Amendment to have the president removed from office. Were you ever involved in any of those discussions? Were you aware of any of those discussions? And I did have a North Korea follow-up for the Secretary.
I said yesterday on the Sunday shows that literally I have never once been in the White House where that conversation has happened. I'm not aware of any cabinet members that are even talking about that. It is completely and totally absurd. No one is questioning the president at all. If anything, we're trying to keep up the pace with him in the fact that he's got a lot he wants to accomplish very quickly, and we're going to continue to support him in the way that he does that.
I appreciate that. And Secretary Pompeo, if I may ask you a follow-up on North Korea. Before you went into the summit with Kim Jong-un in Singapore, you did not have an agreement really in place for complete denuclearization. Why should you have another summit with Kim Jong-un, a second summit the president talked about this morning, if you don't have the details in place? It just seems even to the layman, that you sort of have the process backwards, that you would want the details in place before having a summit. And here you may do it for a second time.
Two things. Fact check. I've been with the administration since the beginning, too. I don't know that that's relevant. But I'll add, no discussion with me about the 25th Amendment anywhere either. So you can now report that there are two senior leaders that have said that your question was ludicrous. Second point with respect to North Korea. Look,
Well,
we went.
I may ask if it's so ludicrous, and I apologize for not remembering that you were the CIA director. Obviously, you were the CIA director. If it's so ludicrous, why did the Deputy Attorney General have discussions about it behind the scenes?
I find the question ludicrous. I've been involved. I've been at the center of this administration, along with lots of other folks, from virtually day one. I think it was actually day 3 or 4. I've never heard anyone talk about it, whisper about it, joke about it in any way. I've been in a lot of meetings with a lot of senior officials from this government. Your question on North Korea. Remember the history. We went at this the other way for decades, and North Korea continued to build its nuclear program, right? We tried to do details, we tried to do step for step, we tried to do trade for trade. Each of those failed. We're coming at this from a different direction. We're bringing the two senior leaders, the individuals who can actually make the decisions that will move this process forward, bring them together so we can continue to make progress towards what the UN Security Council has demanded and what Chairman Kim has promised he would do. That's the effort. There remains work to be done. There will be some time before we get to complete denuclearization for sure, but we've been at this the other way for an awfully long time and failed and put America in the position it finds itself today at risk from North Korean nuclear weapons.
And wouldn't it be ludicrous to have another meeting with Kim Jong-un if you don't have the details in place?
Absolutely not. If we can continue to make progress and have conversations, I think there's enormous value in that.
In the back.
Secretary Pompeo, in your terms about denuclearization, you left out the word irreversible. Was that a mistake or deliberate?
Complete mistake. Completely irreversible. Thank you. Thank you for correcting me.
Good afternoon.
So hopefully you enjoyed that press conference with John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, and Ambassador Nikki Haley. Lots of great information there. I saw many of your comments that you were really enjoying that. And what I really liked about that, quick press conference is how they said they have been with this administration from the beginning. Mike Pompeo said it might have been day 1, but it was actually day 3 or 4. And it's really inspiring just to see their loyalty to the president, that they are not going anywhere, that they support him in everything that he does. You heard Ambassador Nikki Haley say that the president has a lot of things that he wants to accomplish in a short amount of time, as many of you know. And so they are just running alongside him and trying to keep up. So really a fantastic press conference there. And we are going to continue to go through what happened today at day 1 of this high-level week at the United Nations General Assembly. First, going to go through some information with you guys, and then I will have one more video for you. So some information from CNBC. President Donald Trump and South Korean President Moon Jae-in have signed the first major agreement of President Trump's trade agenda. Now, the leaders signed an update to an existing U.S.-South Korea free trade agreement on Monday in New York. Both leaders are attending an annual UN gathering. And President Trump calls it a very big deal and says the new agreement makes significant improvements to reduce the trade deficit between the countries and create new opportunities to export American products to South Korea. He says U.S. automobiles, pharmaceuticals, and agricultural products will gain better access to Korean markets. And Moon says companies from both countries will be able to do business under more stable conditions. And the South Korean leader also said he hopes the revised agreement with the U.S. will help solidify their cooperation in other areas. So right now, I am going to pull up that signing for you, so stay tuned. Happened today, just about an hour ago.
Thank you very much.
And I think you guys are really going to enjoy this, so get comfortable, watch it, and then we'll talk about it.
Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be here today with President Moon of South Korea to formally announce the successful completion of the new U.S.-Korea trade deal. It's a very big deal. This is a great day for the United States and a great day for South Korea. I want to thank President and Vice President. Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much. I'd like to thank our great Vice President Pence for joining us today for the ceremony, and U.S. Trade Representative Bob Lighthizer for his incredible efforts. He's worked very, very hard on this. Thank you all as well to Treasury Secretary Mnuchin and Director of National Economic Council, Larry Kudlow, for their tremendous work. Everybody's worked very, very hard. This is long in coming. Many years, actually, I will say, in coming. In a few moments, we will sign a document pledging that our countries will take the additional necessary steps to implement the new United States-Korea Trade Agreement. I want to express my gratitude to President Moon and his entire team for their dedicated efforts to reach really what we would call a historic milestone in trade, something that most people thought was not going to be happening. From day one, I promised the American people that I would renegotiate our trade deals to ensure that our agreements were fair and reciprocal. For decades, politicians have talked about fixing broken trade deals only to do absolutely nothing about them. My administration is the first to actually keep our promise and deliver. And in addition to this deal, we have many in the works, and they're fair deals, they're reciprocal deals, and they make a tremendous difference to our workers, our companies, and to the United States as a whole. The new U.S.-Korea agreement includes significant improvements to reduce our trade deficit and to expand opportunities to export American products to South Korea. In other words, we are now going to start sending products to South Korea. These outcomes give the finest American-made automobiles, innovative medicines, and agricultural crops much better access to Korean markets. I think our farmers are going to be extremely happy. It was very limited as to what they could do and what they could send, and now it's an open market, and they're going to be sending a lot more farm products. That makes me feel very good. I love our farmers. As a part of this agreement, we have also secured increased access to America's auto industry. South Korea will double the annual number of American cars sold within. In other words, we used to sell a maximum of 25, and we wouldn't even get to that number. And now we're going to $50,000. We're doubling it per manufacturer, and that's a doubling. So it's 50,000 per manufacturer cars, and that's each year. So that's a doubling of the cars per manufacturer that can enter its market, meeting U.S. safety standards. So we're going with now a U.S. safety standard. The standard was at a point that you couldn't get cars in. So we're going to the U.S. safety standard. Very important to understand. This agreement will reduce bureaucracy and increase prosperity in both of our countries. Workers in South Korea and America will find new customers and new opportunities to expand and grow. Our teams will be working hard to ensure that the terms of the deal are fully implemented. President Moon, I just want to tell you we've developed a great relationship on many different fronts. This one is on trade, but we're working very well on North Korea. A lot of very positive things are happening with Chairman Kim of North Korea, and you'll be hearing about that over the coming weeks. But I think some really, really important things are happening. As I said just a little while ago, we have an agreement to work out another summit, and we look forward to doing that. I'm going to be meeting with Chairman Kim in the not-too-distant future. The location is being worked on, the time is being worked on, and we'll be announcing it. As far as these negotiations, our two countries have set an example of friendship and cooperation for trade that rarely you see in this age. And I just want to tell you I'm very honored to be a part of it, and I'm honored to call you a friend, and I'm honored to say that the United States and South Korea have a great friendship together. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
문재인 대통령과 함께 한미 무역 협정의 아주 성공적인 새로운 타결을 공식적으로 발표하게 되어서 매우 기쁘게 생각합니다. 오늘은 미국의 굉장히 위대한 날이고 또 한국에도 매우 위대한 날입니다. 펜스 부통령이 오늘 이 서명식을 함께 해준 데 대해서 감사를 드리고 또 많은 노력을 기울여준 미국 무역 대표부 밥 라이트하우저 대표 그리고 또 스티븐 메누친 재무장관 레리 커들로 백악관 국가경제위원장에게도 많은 노력 감사드립니다. 조금 후에 우리는 새로운 한미 무역 협정을 시행하기 위한 추가적인 필요 조치에 양국이 약속하는 그러한 문건에 서명할 것입니다. 이 역사적인 그러한 이정표에 도달하기 위해서 노력해준 문 대통령과 그 팀 그리고 우리 팀에 매우 감사를 드립니다. 나는 취임 첫날부터 미국 국민들에게 공정하고 또 상호 호혜적인 그러한 방식으로 무역 협정을 재협상할 것이라고 약속을 했습니다. 그리고 수십 년간 많은 정치인들이 잘못된 무역 협정을 고치겠다고 얘기를 했습니다만은 한 번도 이루어진 것은 없습니다. 우리 행정부야말로 실제 우리 약속을 했고 또 그 약속을 지킨 농부들이 아주 기뻐. 양 팀은 이 협정에 다시 한번 그 문재인
우리는 한미 동맹을 토대로 세계에서 유례없는 굳건한 우위를 가지고 있습니다. 한미 FTA 협정은 한미 동맹을 경제 영역으로까지 확장하는 의미가 있습니다. 방향으로 한당이 하는 데도 기여할 수 있기를.
Alliance to economic. The Republic of Korea and the United States have been forging an unprecedentedly close friendship based on our rock-solid alliance. The free trade agreement between the Republic of Korea and the United States is significant in the sense that it expands the ROC-US alliance to economic realm as well. Today we have made amendments and modifications to improve the existing agreement. With the swift conclusion of the negotiations for the revision, uncertainties surrounding our FTA have been eliminated, and as a result, companies from both countries will now be able to do business under more stable conditions. In addition, I'm hopeful that this will provide us with a platform upon which our bilateral economic ties will be elevated to a higher level in a freer, fairer, and more mutually beneficial direction. If our two countries could live up to the spirit embodied in the revised ROC-US Free Trade Agreement, I believe that we will be able to expand mutual trade and investment, create new jobs, and usher in a better future. I hope the revision of the ROC-US FTA will also contribute towards solidifying our cooperation in other fields. I'd like to thank President Trump for his leadership role in ensuring the successful conclusion of the negotiations for the revision of this agreement. I would also like to commend all the members of our respective negotiating teams. Thank you.
위에.
I've never seen my name in Korean. Looks nice.
You can hold it up.
Thank you,
Take a
yes.
picture at the end.
Very good. Thank you very much. Yeah, for you. Oh, let me get that. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Quick question about South Korea. How confident are you that Brett Kavanaugh will be confirmed now?
Well, we hope he's going to be confirmed. He's a fine man.
Ambassador.
A great scholar, great at everything he's ever done. And it would be sad indeed if something happened to reroute that. This is a fine man, and we certainly hope he's going to be confirmed and quickly. His family has suffered. His family has suffered. What's going on is not something that should happen. Brett Kavanaugh is an absolute outstanding person. Hopefully, he will be confirmed quickly. Thank you very much.
So what a historic moment, and thank you to everyone that has tuned in and that has donated as well. Just got a great donation. It looks like $1.99 in pounds from the Lone Ranger 22. Thank you so much. Who says historic signing USA and South Korea. Thanks RSBN. Thank you so much, Lone Ranger. Really appreciate you and everyone that has supported us today. I really enjoyed going through that, and I'm kind of thankful that we didn't stream all of that until just now, because it was really nice seeing everything back to back to back, first with President Trump's comments and some comments from Nikki Haley as well, and then the press conference from Ambassador Nikki Haley, National Security Advisor John Bolton, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and then that historic signing with President Trump and President Moon Jae-in of South Korea. Really great to see that. And so we are going to wrap this up pretty soon. But first, want to kind of just recap things with you guys a little bit and tell you what's coming up. So tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll be having my nightly news recap. So stay tuned for that. It is going to be a lot of fun. And then we'll also be traveling to 2 upcoming rallies. One this Saturday in Wheeling, West Virginia. And if you're not familiar with RSBN, I'm going to take a second to kind of tell you what we do. So we're actually a conservative online news network, and we travel to President Trump rallies all around the country. And we show you guys the whole crowd, something that RSBN's famous for. So this Saturday, Wheeling, West Virginia, and then Monday is Johnson City, Tennessee. And so we're really excited for that. It's going to be so much fun. As you guys can imagine, traveling to these rallies is a very expensive feat. It's at least $5,000 each time. Whether we're sending 3 to 5 crew members, it's still expensive. And we can't do it without you guys. We are donor supported here at RSBN. And so some different ways you can donate. One way is right here by clicking the $sign on the super chat, and it's really fun. You can donate. It'll come up with your name and a bright message, and of course, as long as it's appropriate, I will share it with everyone watching. And also, you can go to our website, rsbnetwork.com/donate, and you will see the different options there. PayPal is there, Patreon, and of course our address as well. You can send to our P.O. Box. You just write the check out to RSBN, and it is 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344 in Auburn, Alabama 36830. So you'll be able to see the different ways there. It's a really fun, easy way to donate, and might be more comfortable for some of you that don't like paying online. Really understand that. And thank you to our great moderators that have just been commenting the different ways that you can donate, that have been supplying information throughout the broadcast. I know that Guinevere is here. Thank you so much, Guinevere. And let's see, looks like some members are here too. Jason Thornton, DM, History B. Usually shout you guys out at the beginning of the broadcast, but I forgot to, so I wanted to right now. And Zoom is here. And DM, thank you guys so much for your support during this broadcast. And it's going to be just so great. All the things that we have coming up, we're really excited to share with you guys. And also wanted to shout out those website moderators. Thank you so much to Common Sense, Gleno, and Reculp for all that you do for us and just for making sure everyone has all of the information they need. Thank you all for tuning into this. Really appreciate each and every single one of you. I hope that you guys have a fantastic evening, and I will see you tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to tune in and send me those story ideas at AlyssaRSBN on Twitter so that I can bring you the stories that matter most to you, and hope that you all have a fantastic evening, and I'll see you soon.